Okay, we're going to go over quiz corrections for this quiz. So, Olivia's Pizza Company supplies large pizzas. The total cost of C in Papua New Guinea, Kia, so this is the current C in Papua New Guinea, is modeled with this function. Okay, N is the number of large pizzas ordered. The total cost includes a fixed delivery cost. So, state the content of the question, what the value of this represents. Well, if n is the number of pizzas, then this represents the cost per pizza. Okay? State what the 850 represents. This is the fixed delivery cost. Okay, write down the minimum number of pizzas that can be ordered. Well, if n is the number of pizzas, the minimum number of pizzas that can be ordered is 2 because of this. Okay, remember z stands for integers, because you can't buy like half a pizza or a quarter of a pizza. They would look at you like you were crazy. You cannot buy part of a pizza. That would be very weird. Okay, even in Papua New Guinea. Okay, so Kealana has 450 PKGs. Find the maximum number of pizzas that Kealana can order. So I'm going to use my formula. Okay, so C is the cost, right? And so we've got 450 PKGs. So I'm going to replace C with 450. And N is the number of pizzas, and we're trying to find the maximum number of pizzas. Okay, so step 1 is we subtract 850 on both sides. Most students got this right, but if you didn't, it's okay. You're learning now, right? And then we get 441.5 equals 34.5 n. And then I have to divide both sides of the equation by 34.5. And when I divide both sides of the equation by 34.5, then we get n equals 12.79. Okay, well, you can't buy 0.79 of a pizza, so we can buy 12 pizzas. Okay, because they're not going to let you buy part of a pizza. Okay, that would be very weird. Okay, draw the inverse graph. Okay, so this point is -3, -1. Remember, when the inverse, we switch x and y. And I even had this on the board during the test, and I asked you to make your page of notes. But some of you didn't do that, so okay. So so this is supposed to be a reflection on the line y equals x. Okay, this is the line y equals x. And it's going to be reflected on this line. Like that. Okay, so I need to plot the point -1, -3. So -1, -3 is here. -1, -3. We switched the x and the y. Now, the domain of the original function is x is greater than -3. So now the range is going to be y is greater than -3. If the domain of the original function, okay, oh, and during the class I told you guys, what is the domain of the inverse? graph. Okay. So what is the domain and range of the inverse graph? So just over here. So the domain of f of x is x is greater than or equal to -3. The range of the original graph is y is less than -1. Y is less than or equal to -1 because this is going down, right? So that's why the range of the original graph is y is less than -1. So if we're switching the domain and range, so if the domain of the original graph is x is greater than -3, then the inverse range is going to become that. If the range of the original graph is y is less than or equal to -1, then the new domain is x is less than or equal to -1. I just switched. So if the original range was y is less than -1, then the new domain is x is less than -1. Okay. So when it's reflected, it's going to hit the same spot on the line y equals x. So I'm going to make it like this and make it kind of reflect. So it's going to kind of go like through here and kind of go like that. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So the new domain is x is less than -1. That means it's going this way, right? The new range is y is greater than 3. -3. Oops. Greater than -3, right? Because it's going up. Okay. If you had trouble with this one, a lot of you did, hit pause, rewind, and watch this again. Okay, rewind it and watch it again, maybe 2 or 3 times if you need to, 4 or 5. Nobody will notice how often you've watched this. I think it will help you to see this. And the thing is, like, if I folded the paper, it should be right on top of it. I saw one of my students folding this just to see, to get it right, and that student got an L7 because that really helped that student figure out the inverse, because it was a reflection on this line y equals x. I told people to even draw it. It was drawn on the board, and people reflected it. They didn't draw that. They didn't pay attention to that. But hope you will this time. Okay. And if you got like this part right or that part right, well then fast forward to the part you need to watch. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Just watch the parts that you needed help on, right? So G circle f x. This is G of f of x. It's written this way. Okay, and we know that f is f of x is equal to this, right? Two x plus 5 over 8, right? And so now I'm going to write this as, one way to think of this as G of smiley face equals 4 times smiley face plus 6. The reason I do it this way is because some people were confused. They wanted to write this totally different. Instead of smiley face, you're going to write this yellow stuff down. Okay, so now I'm going to write 4 times the yellow stuff plus 6. what yellow stuff do we have? It's 2x plus 5 over 8. Okay, hit pause, rewind, watch this again if you did not understand what I just did. Okay, now I need to distribute, multiply 4 times both sides here, and then I get 8x plus 20 over 8 plus 6. There were people that multiplied the 4 times 8 and wrote 32. I'm not sure why you multiplied 4 in the denominator. That doesn't make any sense. You're multiplying 4 times into the numerator. Okay. So I thought it was easier to turn this into a decimal. There's other ways you could do it, and I got those correct. So I could do 8x divided by 8, I got x. 20 divided by 8, I got 2.5, and then plus 6. And so this simplifies 2.5 plus 6. This gives me x plus 8.5. If you wrote this as a mixed fraction, some people converted the 6. Some people wrote it like this, 8x plus 20 over 8 plus, and then they made a common denominator, 6 times 8, that's 48 over 8. And then they got 8x plus 68 over 8. This is also okay. I think it's just much easier with this, especially when we want to do the inverse in question E. In fact, let's do E next, because a lot of people didn't get E. This is basically, they wanted you to do the inverse of this. So let's just say, I'm just going to write y equals x plus 8.5, because we're going to take this function and do the inverse. So when you're doing the inverse, number one, we switch x and y, right? So I'm going to turn this y into an x and turn the x to a y. And then second, solve for y. Okay, well, this is probably super easy to solve for y. All I have to do is subtract 8.5 on both sides of the equal sign. And then I get x minus 8.5 equals y. And we're done. So I can say the inverse g of f equals x minus 8.5. Right? Hit rewind, watch this again if you didn't quite click in. Okay. Okay, let's do B now. This is f of g of x. Okay, close that parentheses. Okay, g of x is this stuff here, right? Right? G of x is this blue stuff. We can think of f of x as f of smiley face equals 2 times smiley face plus 5 over 8. But instead of smiley face, we've got this blue thing. So now I'm going to rewrite this out, but instead of this blue smiley face, we're going to plug in this blue thing. So now we've got, this is equal to 2 times our blue thing plus 5 divided by 8. What blue thing do we have? We have 4x plus 6. Okay, let's simplify. Let's do distributive property with the 2, and we get 8x plus 12 over 8 plus 5. Okay, now people made some algebra errors here. Um, there are, what could we do next? Okay, oops. This line goes like that. It includes this plus 5 there. Sorry. Okay. Because this line goes like that. Okay. So I got 12 plus 5, that's 17. So then we have 8x plus 17 over 8. That answer is fine. Some people simplified this to 8x plus 2.125. That answer is also correct if I do 17 divided by 8. There were some people who they divided 8 on both sides just for this, but then they left the 17. Everything in the numerator is divided by 8, not just the x. Okay. Now we're going to take my f of x and find the inverse. F of x equals 2x plus 5 over 8, right? And I'm going to turn, we're going to change the sign here. So think of this f of x as y. I'm going to turn that into an x. And I'm going to think of that as an x and turn that into a y. Okay, and there were people that did all of this weird math that wasn't in algebra. So we have to multiply 8 on both sides. So then I get 8x equals 2y plus 5. You may want to watch this over and over again if you have trouble with the algebra. So the next step, we have to subtract 5 on both sides. And then I get 8x minus 5 equals 2y. And now we have to solve for y. And I'm going to divide both sides by the 2. And then I get y equals 8x minus 5 over 2. And so I can rewrite this as the inverse of x equals 8x minus 5 over 2. Okay. Same process. I'm going to write this as y equals 4x plus 6. So the first step is we're going to turn this into x and that into y. So now I've got x equals 4y plus 6. I changed the y into an x and then x and vice versa. Okay, so now I want to subtract 6 on both sides, and then I get x minus 6 equals 4y. And then now I want to divide both sides by 4, and we get x minus 6 over 4 equals y. And so now I'm done. My inverse function, g equals x minus 6 over 4. Okay, so as I said before, hit pause, hit rewind. If you get this one and you needed help on the other one, fast forward to the part where you need. Okay. Most people had trouble with this, but then some people forgot everything. So negative 2, 5 is a dot right there. 4, 3 is a dot right there. Okay, that's A, that's B. Okay, so we need to figure out the midpoint, but just look here. It goes down 2 and over 6, so you should be able to figure out that the midpoint is right there. But algebraically, if you wanted to find the midpoint, it's negative 2 plus 4, comma, 5 plus 3. And if you need help with midpoint, the formula is in the dead center of the room on the wall next to the clock. You don't need to memorize this. You can just look at the formula that's on the wall. Okay, and the midpoint is 1 comma 4. And you can even see it on the picture. It goes over 1, up 4. Okay, so now we need to find the slope. So the slope of AB, you can actually just look at the picture. It goes down 1 over 3, down 1 over 3. We know the slope is 1/3. But if I wanted to do this with algebra, I could do 3 minus 5 over 4 minus negative 2. Some people forgot the minus negative 2. They made a sign error there. So then I have negative 2 over 6, which simplifies to negative 1/3. Okay, so that would mean the perpendicular slope is going to be positive 3. And so some people drew a solid line here. No. That the last test, if you did that, that's not right. So we have to, the perpendicular slope is going to be 3. So it's going to go up 3 over 1, down 3 to the left 1. And now I can draw my line. Okay. Now you could have just looked at the graph and you could see my slope is 3 and the y-intercept is 1. So my equation is going to be y equals 3x plus 1, right? Because my slope is 3 and my y-intercept is 1. But let's just say you didn't want to do the algebra. You could just say, okay, well, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. This formula is in their formula packet. We know our new slope is going to be 3. We know y1 is 4. And we know x1 is 1. And so now I can do distributive property with that 3. I got y minus 4 equals 3x minus 3. And I can add 4 on both sides. And then I get y equals 3x plus 1. But like I said earlier, you could have just looked at the picture. You know the slope is going to be 3, and you know that y-intercept is going to be 1. But you know, it's okay. If you missed it, you're going to retake it and do great. So, okay, last page. Okay, so what I did here, we know that it's going to reflect on the line y equals x. Okay, it's going to be a reflection on this line. This is y equals x. Okay, so okay, before I do the reflection, let's answer this question here. Write down the value of this. So when x equals 2, what is the y value? The y value is 6. Okay, this is f of 2. Okay, we just did in part AI that when x is 2, we know that y is going to be 6. So I'm going to replace this here with 6. So now I've got f of 6. So if x is 6, then y is negative 2. Okay. Find the domain of f of x. It's actually written right here. The domain of f of x is negative 4 to 6. and you can see it in the picture. It goes from -4 to +6. Now the range is the lowest point, the lowest value for the y is -2, and the highest value for the y goes up to here, which is 6. So it goes from -2, okay. Let me say it again. The lowest y value is -2. The highest y value is 6. That's my range, is the lowest to the highest y value. The domain, the lowest x value is -4. The highest x value is 6. Okay, now we're going to draw the inverse. Okay, so I'm going to look at some points here. This is -4, 4. So if I switch the values, then I would be graphing +4, -4, +4, -4. So this is the new point. Okay. The original graph I'll color in blue. The new graph I'll color in 4. So this point right here is 0, 4. So now I'm going to graph 4, 0. Since I labeled that one, I'll label this one. This was 4, -4, right? We switched the x and the y values. Okay, let's just draw a line. And it looks like this would reflect on that, right? Okay. All right. This point right here is 2, 6. So now I need to plot 6, 2. And this point right here is 4, 4. So it's going to be the same spot. So this curve right here is going to be this curve right here. Okay, it kind of looks like a reflection, doesn't it? Okay, and then the last part, this point right here is 6, -2. And so now I'm going to plot -2, 6. -2, 6. Right? We switch the x and the y values, so now I'm going to, I guess, kind of go there. It looks like a reflection, doesn't it? Okay. So this should be able to fold right there, and we're done.